This video, I'll be moving on to the head controls. I will start with just a basic circle to control the base of the neck. Get up here. I'm going to hide my geometry once again. And V, snap this onto the joint. You turn the head on again real quick. Just get a rough idea as to how big I need this to be. I think that'll work. Next, I'll duplicate this, Control D, and then snap this onto the base of the head. So now I'll have one for the neck, one for the head. I'll select these both, freeze transformations, delete history. Head control, neck control. I'll also parent these together, so I'm going to parent my head control onto my neck control, and my neck control onto my torso control. So now if I rotate my torso, the head and neck controls will move with it. And now I can select my neck control, shift select my neck joint, constrain, orient, head control, head joint, constrain, orient. Now it looks to me like I need to fix my weights again. That looks better. Set that back to 0. Hopefully the head works better. Yeah, I can do a bit of cleaning up right there. Like I said, my initial weight painting was not intended to be perfect. It's a lot easier to work with once I've got these controls in there, so I can see what the body can actually do. That'll be something to fix outside the video. I also want to create controls for the eye stalks and the eyeballs themselves. But I've got some plans because I want to be able to make the eye stalks shrink back in. Maybe not all the way, but at least be able to pull them in a bit. Maybe even push them out, I don't know. And I've been thinking about how to do that, and I've got a plan, but it is a bit tricky. So I'm going to start with a circle. Anything weird in there? And rather than leaving the circle as is, I'm going to put this in a group, just like I did for the arm controls right here. Remember, if I select my arm control and up arrow, there's my arm control group. I did that so I could leave these controls at an angle while still being set to 0. So I'm going to select my circle down here. I'm going to hit Control G to put this into a group. And I will snap this onto the second joint right here. I'm going to leave the one at the very, very base alone. I'm going to put right here. I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, snap it on the next one. And I want the base one to be slightly larger than the rest. So I'm just going to grab this and scale it down a little bit. Make sure I can still see, there it is, the circle, even with the eye stalk in the way. Up arrow to get back to my group, Control D, V to snap, Control D, V to snap, Control D, V to snap. And I'll do one more, Control D, V to snap. Now I want each of these to be in line with the joint below them. Not with the joint they're on, but the one below is pointing towards the joint they're on. So I'll start down here. Up arrow to get back to my group. Shift select the joint down below and press P to parent. And now if I set my parent to 0, it's like that. Uh-oh. Grab my circle, rotate, hold down J and rotate this 90 degrees. Freeze transformations. I'll also do that for each of these. Up arrow, get to the group, shift select, press P, get those to 0, grab my circle again. Next, I want to create a control for the eyeball itself. Normally, if I was doing a human character, I would put controls out in the front that would make the eyeball aim at it. This time, I'm just going to put a control around because when I move this around, the eye stalk is what's going to move, not the eyeball itself. I just want to have a control here to do some things to the eyeball later on, and maybe to adjust it a little bit if I want to. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new type of control. I've got the circles, I've got the squares. I'm going to create something that's kind of sort of like a sphere. modify, freeze, edit, delete by type, history. So I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, rotate 90 degrees, duplicate that, rotate this 90 degrees. Select them all, freeze transformations. But what I want is for this to act as one single object. If I just parent these to this, yes, I can move them together as long as I grab the parent circle, but if I grab one of the other circles, I grab them individually. Undo that. So what I want to do is connect these together without them being just parented. And to do that, I have to do a bit of a trick. I'm going to use melt scripting to do a special kind of parenting. It's not parenting, it's adding the shape from one object into another object. This is just a generic set of instructions right here. I'm going to name each of these circles, and then the parent object is going to put its name right here, and each one of the child objects is going to go in here, where it says child. I'm going to leave the word shape capitalized, S in shape, because if I look at any one of these, like this one right here, if I go to my attribute editor, I have NURB circle 4 and NURB circle for shape 4. I'm basically grabbing this and adding it to this. I'm going to start by renaming these. I'll name this A, B, and C just to make this easier. Next, I'll grab this and copy it. Go down here to where it says Mel, paste that in. And the parent will be capital A. And the child, I'll start with B, so it'll be capital B. Press enter. Now if I click on this, that is attached to this. I'll do that again. Paste that in. Once again, the parent's still going to be A. Now it's going to be child, be capital C. Press enter. And you'll notice the original ones are still there, just have copies of them. I'm going to select these and delete them. And this is what I'm going to use for my eyeball control. Duplicate that, snap this right there. And let's see how big I want that to be, maybe a little bit smaller. There we go. Freeze transformations, I'll delete it by type history on the safe side. And now I'm going to start parenting these down the hierarchy, starting with the I. So I'm going to name this L I control, shift select the stock control, and press P. And we rename these. How many of these are there? See, there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. L stock. Just see 6 control. Up arrow. There's my group. L stock 6 group. With my group selected, I'm going to shift select my control below, parent that. Just going to rename these as I go. So 5 control, up arrow, shift select, press parent. Up arrow, shift select, press P. Arrow. Right one selected. Up arrow for the last one. Now to mirror this over, I'm first going to unparent this from the joint. So hit Shift P. There you go. Now we'll duplicate this, Control D, and add this duplicate into a group, Control G. And the group is now centered in the middle. I got my scale X, put -1, my scale X, it flips over to the other side. Grab this again, shift up to grab just that group. I'm going to unparent this from that new group, shift P. There you go. And I need to rename everything inside this hierarchy. So I'm going to go to select hierarchy, grabs everything in there. Search and replace names, L underscore, I'm going to replace that with R underscore. And now they're all renamed. Although the one at the very, very base still has this extra 1 at the end. I'm going to remove that. You got that when it duplicated. And I'm going to select both the groups. So I'll grab both the bases right here, up arrow to grab the groups. Shift select my head control and just parent them to this, like that. Next, I'm going to grab my control object, shift select the joint it's controlling, constrain parent. Strain parent. I'm not using orient for this because I'm going to use these to move these up and down as well. Orient will only control the rotation. Hit G to repeat that. And this one I'm just going to do orient on because it doesn't need to move it. Do the same on this side. Parent, G to repeat. One moment. Apparently, some of these are rotating in directions I wasn't expecting. These ones are fine. These ones are fine. You are off a little bit, so I'm going to remove the constraints from those real quick. Windows Outliner. Stock 7. Stock 7. Temporarily unparent these. Grab these, and I'm going to rotate these 90 degrees. No, wait, I want to rotate the group 90 degrees. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. Arrow, J, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. All right. I forgot that the joints up here are twisted in some weird way. So I'm going to reparent these, and then redo the parent constraints. That's more like it. Should be the same on this side. There we go. Now, doesn't look like anything's happening in here, but I'm hoping, yeah, there you go. You can see the eyeball moving around in there. Not sure it really matters, but I wanted to have it there just in case. One more thing I want to do with these, I'm going to select my objects right here, my eye stalks. Now, this isn't really the best thing to do, but I tested out earlier and it seems to be fine in this case. I'm going to mesh, smooth those, and then edit. I'm not going to do delete by type. I'm going to delete non-deformer history. And now I've got more geometry in here, so that should move a bit more smoothly. But I don't have the extra garbage in my history. All right. Next, I'm going to select my two base controls, add attribute. I call this retract. I might go from -10 to +10 in case I want to make it go out. That way I can stretch them out a little bit. So I'll go back into my animation key, set driven key, set. This is my driver, retract. And I'm going to leave this one at the base and just pull the rest of them down to it. I'm going to select all these, flow driven. And it should be, oh no, you are going to be in trouble, aren't you? Still pointing the wrong direction. Figures. I'll do the rest of them and then do this one afterwards. I'm going to select the four that I know work, redo the load driven, select all of them in here, and this should be the X translate. Key that. Retract and 0, so I'm going to set this to 10, maximum, and just snap all these down to their maximum retraction. Where these go? -7. That might be a bit much for pulling them out, so I'll go the opposite. I'll just set that to 5. Oh boy. Key. I'll do this right here because you just had to be trouble. Translate Y. Sure, this is 0. Retract. Translate Y. Key that. Key. Move on to the other side. Load driver. Load driven. Retract. Translate X. Key that. Yeah, the weights aren't great. Wasn't really expecting them to be. Something I need to fix outside the video, I feel. Otherwise, you're going to be here all day. Last thing I want to do, I want to create some blend shapes so I can make them blink, even though I know that snails don't blink, they just pull their eyes in. I looked it up, but then snails don't usually wear suits of armor either, so suspension of disbelief, you know? I'm going to start by selecting these two. Might as well grab all three, duplicate them, and I'm going to turn off this layer, but there's still part of that layer, so I'm going to right-click and remove those from the layer. So these are duplicates of the ones that are in the layer. I don't want to mess with those by mistake. And I'm going to select, notice these are all grayed out right here. I'm going to select all my channels, right-click, unlock selected. There we go. In case you need to move them around. I'm going to first duplicate one of these just so I've got a version I haven't messed with, because I'm going to make blend shapes by selecting the eyelids and pulling them down over the eyeballs. I want to have one version that's not been messed with real quick, just in case I need that in a minute. B, my soft select tool, hold down B and drag that out. Rotate. If I hold down D, I can move this around. So slowly nudge these shut. Halfway there. I grab a few of these and tweak them a little bit. Normally, if I close an eye, it goes from the top all the way down to the bottom. But the thing is, there's a difference between blinking and winking. When you blink, your top eyelid goes all the way down to the bottom. When you wink, your two eyelids meet in the middle. I've decided that because his eyeballs are separate, they operate separately. So whenever he blinks, he's technically winking. Plus, I'm just doing this to make life a little bit easier for me. Normally, I would use ZBrush to do all this, but not everyone has access to ZBrush, so I'm just going to do a quick and dirty job in Maya. Like how that turned out. Let me do this again. Grab a bit more of that, I think. There. I'm going to move both sides at the same time. Set this to symmetry X. There we go. It's a little wobbly. So go back to modeling, surfaces, sculpt geometry tool. I'm going to use the relax tool. Make sure this is set to reflection. Yep, it's already set in the X direction. That'll relax the geometry a little bit. Right, let's check to see if it's still mostly symmetrical. The problem is I've made this for both sides. What I want is to have one side the right object and the right eye and one side for the left eye. So I'm just going to use my blend shape to help me create the shapes that I want before I do anything else. So I'm going to shift select my unmodified one back here, rigging, form, blend shape. And now if I look in my inputs, blend shape, look at that. Set that to maximum. And here's a little trick. Double click to get all those vertices. Form, weights, paint weights, blend shape option box. I'm going to set my value to 0 and flood this. So now the weights are not affecting this side. We duplicate that, Control D. I'll call it R blink. I'm going to reverse those weights. I'm going to go back in here, double click, set these weights back to 1, flood those, and I'll set these ones to 0. Repeat that. And I'll name this one left blink. But there tends to be a bit of an issue. I'm going to set this back to 0. I'm going to delete history on this one. Edit, delete by type, history. There may be an issue when these are at the halfway point. Can't really see right here because there's no eyeball in it. So this time I'm going to use this one to control these. Yes, I'm getting a little bit crazy. Deform, blend shape. I will set this to halfway. And let's see, yep, you can see the eyeball is sticking through my eye socket, which I don't want to do. Make sure this is still set to symmetry. Just gonna pull these forward a little bit. Same thing down here. Duplicate this. And at this point, I could probably get rid of these, but I'll leave them alone for the time being. Just set my blend shape back to 0. Fortunately, no point is to get really off center, so it's not too bad. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. First of all, delete the history on these. All right, so I select this, deform, blend shape. Now it's going to the halfway point. Oops, make sure I turn that back off again. Deform, paint weights, blend shape. Flood that with 0. Duplicate that. I'll move this over next to my full blink. I'll name this right half blink. And I'll just swap these around again. Put that to 0. Set this one to 1. Duplicate that. Left half blink. And I should be able to delete all these, but just in case, I'm going to file save scene as, just in case I need to go back to it. Bring back the original. I will select all these in order, just make it easier to find them when I add my blend shape. Shift select the original object last. Deform, blend shape. And yes, I could keep going into here to do that, but that's kind of a pain in the neck. Instead, Windows Animation Editors, Shape Editor, and there they are right here. Next, I will select my eye controls, edit, add attribute, blink, 0 to 10. I could have also added one where I made the eyes get wider, but I'll be honest, this guy seems like the stoic type. Making him get excited doesn't feel right for some reason. I can just imagine him, standing in the middle of battle and slowly blinking. Can't really see him getting excited. So now these have... Oops. Oh, I forgot to freeze transformations after parenting. Oh dear. I can't freeze transformations now, that'll mess up the constraints. And so it's going to go to my outliner. Find my orient. Orient. Modify freeze transformations. Easy fixes. Problem with trying to talk while doing this, I tend to forget the important things because I'm too busy thinking about what I'm going to say next. Right, now I got my blinks in there. Go back to animation, key, set turn key, set. Grab this one first, my left load driver. Now in order to grab the blend shapes, right click and tell to select the blend shape node and load driven. Now it's in here. It'll blink and it'll have blink. Select my blink in there, key. You can see these are now keyframed. I'll set my blink to 5 because that's halfway. Maximum on the half blink, key that. Then all the way to 10. I'll turn off half blink and turn on the full blink and key that. And now if I do this, look at that. Same thing over here, load driver, blink. Only this time I'm going to select the two rights. These are all part of the same blend shape node, so I don't have to reselect anything for that. Just make sure that these are highlighted. Key that. Halfway my blink. Maximum right. Half. Swap them around. Now you may notice this, it kind of slows down part way through. That's a bit of a complicated topic, but I'll go and show you how to fix it anyway. Windows, animation editors, graph editor. Once again, I'm going to select my node, and this shows how Maya interpolates from 0 to 5 to 10, or from 5 to 10, for each of these, and you'll notice it starts slow, speeds up, and slows down again. There's a curve, and that's why it gets that slow down the midway like it does. So I'm going to select all these keyframes right here, and there is these little buttons at the top. One that says linear tangents. I want this to be a linear tangent, and now it's a straight line, and there's no slow in the middle now. There. I can hide these by putting them in a layer. Blend shapes layer. Hide that. Don't need to see them anymore. All right. That should be enough for the head. Next video, I'll do some final work on the feet and clean up the rest of it.